realization that has caused the fact that connecting has happened on a much more worldwide basis, and it's also due to that I've had the honor and pleasure to meet you. So yeah, the world has become a small place, and it's good to have you in that place. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Karl. And actually, you're really, I believe that the language that you're bringing and the perspective are really global. Thank you for that. And actually, it's very relevant when it's and related to what we are doing in the local context. And that's something that I really have to acknowledge. And thank you for that. So yeah, it's an honor always to work with you, Karl. Karl, now today we are talking about the executive and team coaching. And I believe that in the first session now, or the first episode, or the first 30 minutes, I believe that there is, how we can bring through the executive coaching presence back to leaders, and what is executive presence. Maybe we can, I believe that this is a topic that maybe many of the audience, either they will benefit from the service, or coaches who are actually, or consultants who really want to know how to bring this as a tool when we're working with executives. So I would love actually to keep the floor for you to actually to see where you want to start. You want to start from, from stories, from storytelling, from the perspectives, from the theory. And I'll just, keep the microphone for you. You're the expert, and just it's a very good place actually to start from. Yeah.
Okido. Thank you, Mohammed. Well, I will start exploring a bit. When it becomes too boring, please interrupt me. Yeah, well, what I've noticed in my own coaching practice in the last 2 years, and I think COVID has helped a bit, honestly, is that there's been a shift in what leadership means. When I see that the kind of exercises, the kind of questions, the kind of experiences that I offer my coaching clients, both in individual executive coaching or in team coaching, that has changed a bit. And I've started using words like, for instance, executive presence, that I did not use so much yet before COVID. When I go back 5-6 years, it was much about leadership. It was much about delegation, about trust, about motivation, about retention, those kind of things. And I still use those words, but others have entered the place. Words like being, words like presence, resilience, co-creation, disruption, those words have entered the leadership place. And I believe that in the last 2 years, more than before, I've actually heard leaders say themselves, Karl, I'm wondering who I need to be as a leader. Whoa. That is a question that is quite breaking, Who do I need to be as a leader? That is a radically different question from what do I have to do as a leader? And I think that, yeah, somehow a shift has taken place when it comes to the connection between leadership and being. And probably the word presence is a word that could be somewhere here in the middle, connecting leading with being. When I'm talking about executive presence, I'm not talking about a leader that is in front of an audience with a microphone and connecting and having impact and persuading. Not at all about that. Then I'm talking about a leader who is in total, what I call balance within himself, who experience coherence and consistency, between him and the rest of the world. Some would call that between him and her and the universe. I'm not going to go that far, but between him, her, and the biotope, the context of which he or she is a part. And well, then it comes to the question whether there is alignment with who he or she is and the greater potential around him or her. What is the potential of the ecosystem of which he's a part? What is the potential of the company for which he or she is working? What is his own potential? What is the potential of his team? And how does the presence of the leader connect with that potential? How does the presence of the leader helps that potential come to full reality? These are the questions that all of a sudden come on the plate, and sometimes without me asking for it. And that is a new experience. And probably since some CEOs the last 18 months have been confronted with intensive shifts in their strategy, their business models, some companies have known failure, and so on and so on. I guess that the courage has become greater, and the courage has become more intensive to explore these questions, both on an individual and both on a team level. So yes, I think that the last 2 years, leadership has opened the doors to being. And I believe that the door from leadership to being is called presence, executive presence. You're muted, I think.
How you articulated it was really amazing. And actually seeing the view from doing to being and the presence, connecting everything, like in the ecosystem and environment, and actually connecting this being with doing, and actually moving with resilience, courage, with the strategy is actually, it is as if you're putting an executive in a state of flow with what is happening. It's connecting them in a state of flow where their actions are a reflection to who they are.
That is, I'm going to try to reformulate your beautiful words. I believe that what the leader should do or should be able to do is actually to be in continuous co-creation with the potential around him or her. You can call that go with the flow, yes. You can call that respond to what is happening, yes. But I think that the most correct and meaningful way to formulate it is be in co-creation, not just with the people around you, but with the larger potential around you, and actually try to observe, actually try to sense with what do you see happening in front of your eyes, and what is contributing to that larger potential, and what is not contributing. So in times of disruption, in times of chaos and crisis, I believe that simply following a business strategy as it once was formulated 2-3 years ago in your company is no longer enough. Not only you will be invited to radically change your business strategy, but you will also be invited to continuously change it, continuously adapt it, continuously fine-tune it with what the rest of the market and the rest of the entire economy is telling you to do. So that makes strategy to a much more delicate and complex exercise than it used to be. And only with your thinking, only with your strategic thinking, you will not be able to do that job. You will not be able to guarantee progress for your company. It's going to take more wisdom than just the wisdom of your brain. It's going to have to be co-creative wisdom the entire time.
Well, can you now? There is a new meaning for the co-creation now. That's, whenever I think of co-creation, I think of brainstorming sessions, integrating the team, looking at perspectives like opportunities, thinking of ideation, putting this design thinking as a way. But now we are talking about integrating other parts, not only the brain. Can you elaborate more about that?
Well, this is a really interesting question.
Yeah.
When you coach an individual executive, you are not only working with his or her brain, you're working with his or her entire body. You're working with energies, with wisdoms taking place in the overall body. Since ICF 2 years ago created the phenomenon single entity when we're talking about team coaching, you could also say the same thing about teams. When you're coaching a team, you're actually coaching the entire body of a team as a single entity, and everything that happens within that single entity has an own identity, has own values, has own energies, etc. Well, probably, but I'm less an expert in that area, probably the same can be said for entire organizations. There's also a new chapter in the coaching area booming at the moment. It's called organizational coaching. I'm not an expert in that, but I know it exists. So there may be also a way of looking at an entire organization as an entity with an identity, with values, with a mission, with energy, with a heart, with a soul, with a brain. I think that in order to be truly successful, leaders will have to be able to embrace also that level. And of course, you cannot do that only with your brain. If you want your entire organization to co-create a new strategy, it's not only going to work with the brain of the organization, it's going to have to work with everything, the heart, the stomach, the organs, the bloodstream, everything. And we are coming there in the so-called, well, systemical view on organizations. Not an expert in that, but I believe that somehow leaders will find connection with all those things.
Wow. So now we are talking about integrating something that is normally unseen.
Yes.
It is very hard actually to in a way materialize emotions, materialize the heart, materialize the energy. However, it is there, and to integrate them in your process and actually look at the systemically how the organization is functioning from a social perspective, from energetic perspective, from connection and presence and place positioning with the market, is actually integrating this is not just about the numbers, not just about the trends, not about just about the data and the facts.
Yes.
It's about a group consensus or something like that. It's about alignment on the essence and the dreaming level. So different levels of reality in a way.
And yes, totally. And integrating them. It should become an and story. Huh? I'm certainly not claiming that all of a sudden figures and facts and results and balance sheets and Excel sheets and monitoring of results are no longer of any importance. They are, and they remain absolutely critical if you want to know where your company is going at the moment and where you want it to go. But a purely, let's say, brain-based approach in interpreting these numbers and in projecting numbers for the future is no longer working. Together with the data analysis, together with the data work, you will need the work of the heart. And ideally, you do that together with your team, together with the entire organization. Because, and there's a belief, I cannot prove that, I believe, Mohammed, that if organizations want to continue growing in a sustainable way, that growth coming from co-creation in between the people that make the organization, that kind of co-creation will probably be the only way of further sustainable growth. There's a moment when all the financial instruments, where all the management instruments have reached their maximum impact. And then the only thing that can keep you continue growing is to invest in people. But investing in people has passed aside the area of sending them to trainings, whatever, investing in their career. I think we've come to a moment that investing in people has become investing in allowing co-creation, which means that you have to allow that sometimes teams or people in your organization will do something that is not necessarily foreseen in your strategy, but of which you sense in the moment from, aha, I'm sensing that I'm going to let this happen because you never know what may come out of it. So a balance between, well, data and brain-based leadership and sensing, intuition, and heart-based leadership. That is what I'm pleading for at this moment.
So that's actually a very, yani, I know that what's behind each and every word of what you have said is a lot of experiences, a lot of questions, the philosophy itself that you presented and the theory, you know, it's really, maybe it's not very easy to comprehend on a very, you know, superficial level. There are lots of deep practices to really reach this sweet spot of that we are really facing our being, we are co-creating, we are connecting, we're collaborating, we're in a state of resilience, we're in a state of flow, we are systemically connected to what's happening in the teams, organizations, in the ecosystem. And from this place of presence, you know, this is where the executives want to be. And actually, this can be confirmed with some interviews I had with some managers and senior managers, directors, middle managers, and senior executives and business owners. They are not looking for somebody to tell them what to do or how to do it. They are looking for some deeper experiences psychologically to deal with their stresses, pains, to understand what, you know, to reflect and have the ability and power to move on and sustain their success. And it's not about, you know, giving them tools, not about the doing, not about merely the training, the consulting approach. It's about going in and fetching the treasures and coming out with something. So I believe that maybe in a brief, if you can actually reflect with a story or something, that would be great, you know, on the impact of presence on executive coaching, and what can maybe the tools that were used in such a, you know, and if it is okay to share a story or something.
Yes, with pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
I had the honor and pleasure to coach in the last years a company active in the production of water cranes, the things you turn on and water leaves. I think crane is the right word. Water cranes, production of those materials. And the founder and CEO of that company had a very, let's say, dominant way of being present in that environment, towards colleagues and towards his team and towards family members. And that was because he had the conviction that the company could only be managed, could only be led the way he did it. And so he expected that all possible colleagues and certainly his own family members would copy more or less his own way of leading, managing, and working. And well, of course, no need to say that COVID or no COVID, that is impossible. We all have different personalities. We all bring in different competencies. And the day any else would take over leadership, by definition, it would become another leader, simply by nature. So what actually took place with him, because I coached that person a few years, what actually happened is an awareness, first of all, that he should allow other ways of working, other ways of thinking, other ways of working together in his company than only his own way of working. That was an important awareness for him, that he had to allow that. And the second one is actually that he started to work with his heart rather than only with his brains, because he also worked together with some family members. But during working hours, he had forgotten that he actually loved those family members. Now, loving someone is still something that you do with your heart, not with your brain. So he was forgotten that he collaborated with people that he actually loved. And there I said, well, I think it's a bit strange that when trying to work with those people, I see you working with your brain. Well, I'm not saying that you should not work with your brain, but there's more than just your brain. There's also your heart. And well, that's interesting. That's interesting. And we did some exercises on that, amongst others, based on transformational presence. And the great thing is that after that, he had learned to work with his heart, with his family members. He also started using his heart with his other colleagues that were not family members, but that were colleagues. And well, if you want to put it in very concrete words, you could say that his empathy started to become bigger. Also, his mildness for other ideas and other ways of working than his own started to become more visible. And also his appreciation for other ways of working than his own started to become more visible. That was in the first phase. In the second phase, he started to allow things to happen on the working floor that he would, in his previous life, not allow. And he started to say, okay, apparently something is happening that is perhaps not totally in line with our strategy. Something is happening that is not foreseen in the business plan. But I think and I feel that I should let it go, that I should let it happen, because God knows what may come out of it. And he's come now to a point that what I call there is a continuous, I'm looking for the right word here. Yes, there is a continuous co-creative connection. I think that's the right word. He's going now through a continuous co-creative connection with himself and with all the people in his company. So I think that he has reached a balance, driving the business still with data, with his brain, strategizing thinking. This is not forbidden to use your brain, but it is in combination with the rest of his body. What am I sensing at this moment? What is coming in at this moment? What do I see that is happening in front of my eyes that may not be 100% linked to the business strategy, but that may be very productive, that may be very creative, and I'm going to stay connected with that as well.
Wow.
So I think he's combined both. That is just one case spread over 2-3 years. Here,
I'm actually seeing here as if these blocks on emotions and integrating the heart, as if it was a block to the funnel, as if it is an end of the funnel, and you just made it through to cut off the edge of this and the closure, it's a closed funnel, and you just opened, and then it started sequencing and opening afterwards.
yes.
The openness itself to accept others, be empathetic
Yes.
with others, appreciating. This is where co-creation can happen.
Yes.
When I'm open to integrate with others, connect with them on a deeper level. This is where his presence, actually, the mental filters or the blocks that were limiting him from seeing good ideas or seeing potential in his team members, family members, and peers, now it became clearer, and actually he's having better perspectives on things.
Yes.
So
I think that you mentioned there two important words, openness and vulnerability. I think that the true meaning, the true day-to-day manifestation of executive presence is that you have spontaneously access, that you are spontaneously connected with all possible layers and levels inside of you. When you need to work with your heart, you have access to your heart. When you need to work with your brain, you have access to your brain. When you sense, when you are intuitive that you should join a co-creative exercise, then you have access to your intuition. So that a spontaneous access to all possible energies in your body, I believe that that is one of the keys to executive presence. And whenever you see something moving in your organization, whenever you see something happening in your organization, that you're capable of smoothly, spontaneously connecting with that, no matter where it is coming from. That is, well, there are many definitions of executive presence, see Google, but that is a concrete manifestation that I see a lot when all this goes spontaneously. And there is a conflict in the company because someone is frustrated by your way of leadership. You spontaneously connect with that situation and turn it into something positive. There is a technical problem with an IT system and everybody looks at you, you don't have a clue how to solve it, but you spontaneously connect with that situation and try to lead your people how to solve it. You have a conflict with your son. You spontaneously connect with that situation and try to solve, try to improve the potential in that situation. And that is where, well, she's been quoted a lot these days. Her book, Marcia Reynolds, the coach the person, not the situation. I think that is an error that a lot of leaders do. There's a situation coming to you, and by all means you try to coach, or even worse, solve that situation. That is management by the brain. When you try to connect and give attention to the people around the situation, then you have a chance to come to full potential and to make the persons that have to solve it stronger by your way of being present.
Well, I believe that this, what you have said here, actually to transform from body who is very rational, looking at data, looking at only information, and actually very putting these rules and, you know, managing by the own personal potential and limitations, you know, and confining the organization within this leadership style into an open person who's co-creative, who's vulnerable, who's actually able to connect with new ideas and being in the present and connect with the heart and, you know, and being empathetic about others. This transformation journey is, I don't think it's just one session or two sessions.
No.
So how, yani, a typical engagement, you know, when we are talking to executives who have been there in the wild for some, you know, for some periods of time, and actually they were at some point of time they were shaming emotions, because emotions means that you will take stupid decisions and you will actually get attached to products or people, and it may harm the business. So this transformation, how does it happen, and how long does it take typically?
That's the $1 billion, million, whatever dollar question, huh? Yeah. If I go back in time for 10 years, 2011, yes, I was at that moment PCC for 1 year, and I was mainly an internal coach. I started external coaching from 2014 when I launched my independent business. If I go back 10 years, I believe that a conversation that I'm having right now with you, and many of the words and topics and metaphors that I'm using here with you, if I would use the same thing with clients back then, 10 years ago, and certainly in the industries that I worked for in that moment, I don't think that I would have had a lot of work, because the leaders back then would say, this Karl is talking really, really strange things. He's using strange words. The heart, energy, presence. Is this guy going to facilitate our strategic session?
Will you solve our cash problem?
No. But there has been an immense evolution, even apart from what coaches have done. I believe that leadership has known a very significant transformation in itself over the last 10 years. And yes, COVID has helped a bit, that's for sure. But even apart from COVID, a lot of words, a lot of terminology, a lot of concepts, a lot of metaphors have started to find their entrance in the leadership framework for the simple reason, Mohammed, that many leaders have come to a point where they clearly observed this way of working is no longer bringing growth. The traditional ways of leading and managing with balanced scorecards, with quarterly reporting, with strategic plans going over 2-3 years. Again, I'm not saying that we should get rid of all that. No, let's keep it. These are valuable instruments. But with that alone, you're not going to make it anymore as leader. You're not going to be successful as leader. You need to allow yourself and your team to explore the deeper essence of your company, your team, and yourself. And for that, you need strategies that go further than simply asking questions and listening and fine-tuning, etc. For that, you need the strategies that we've just been exploring. And I believe that we've come to a point where the notion of leadership itself, well, it may continue to exist in the media and in the books, but the meaning of it will become much richer and deeper. And I think that, well, the word executive presence has fallen already. I think that word presence will become more and more crucial for sustainable growth.
Wow, this has been actually what I can call an anthem, about executive coaching, about executive presence, and how this can be brought. And actually, I really loved, how you brought it and articulated it, Karl. I believe that I will need to see this video again and again. This is something for me. It's and I urge actually everybody who's seeing us now and actually is actually in a place where they comprehended or actually understood what we were talking about, from this, and understand the expenses of this and the cost of this transformation, as well the return to it, actually to share this with their leaders and their managers who actually may be seeking help and support with executive coaching. And actually, I believe that it was an amazing anthem today. Thank you, Karl. Karl, can you, before closure, I believe that we will have something like a minute or two to just explain some about your services and how can people contact you for, they need to reach out for you or something. Would you like to have something? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Mohammed. Well, I will be very, very shortly on this. Since a year or 3, I think, yes, my professional home here based in Belgium is called Autolit. It's www.autolit/consulting.com or autolit.be. You can find it on my LinkedIn profile. And we actually, in the heart of our business, we are busy with everything that is related to strategy. The key question there is, whenever you come to the observation, dear leaders, that your strategy, as beautiful as it is on your slide deck, in your Excel sheets, in your PDF document, does not get executed the way it should be. Well, we have a saying that is, strategy never fails. It is the people that have to execute it that may or may not fail. And when you see that happening, we are pretty sure that we can help you. And it can be consulting, it can be organizational design, strategic facilitation, executive coaching, team coaching. We have a lot of strategies and approaches to help with that pain. Strategic pain is what we call it. A second recent organization that I helped co-founding is the Team Coaching Global Alliance, because it was also aligned with the Autolit strategy, where we actually totally engage in the newest team coaching competences. And the website is www.teamcoaching.global, where I have the honor and pleasure to co-facilitate with my colleague Jonathan Wrights and Katerina Canelidou a brand new program on team coaching that has two purposes. It tries to clarify insight and practice on the newest team coaching competences as developed by ICF. And it also tries to help participants to actually gain a certificate in team coaching. These are my two professional entities, but the foundation of it all is Autodit in Belgium.
Wow. Wow. So thank you for that, Karl. I believe that because of the limitation of these banners and tickers, I would have showed it on it. So I put it as text comment on the video. And maybe before publishing on YouTube, I will just add this as a banner or something when we edit this video. So thank you for this amazing interview. It was really amazing. Thank you, Karl. And I would really love to announce to our audience that we'll have two other episodes as we agreed, right? And the next episode we will be talking about the strategy for external coaching and team coaching. How can you this what the purpose of Autolit, and how you do the strategic doing, and how as an external coach you can actually support using executive and team coaching in supporting executives and organizations in implementing strategies. So this will be our next episode, right?
Yes.
And this will be the next month, right? So yes. We will announce it early on. Thank you, Karl. And besides actually what Karl said, actually Karl is also the MCC holder, and he's a mentor. He's mentoring and supervising on MCC and PCCs, around the world. And he's having this famous group on Facebook, which is ICF, ACC, PCC, and MCC. Yeah. And it's a really active group for accreditation, certifications, supervision, and mentoring. Yeah. Thank you, Karl.
You present me better than I do myself. That's
So thank you, Karl. Really, you're very generous, and actually you'll find many contents. Actually, Karl is explaining the team coaching competences, and there are many free videos and webinars he is already offering. And it's always from your generosity, Karl, and thank you for that. It's really appreciated.
Sure.
Thank you, and meet you again next month.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye. Good morning. Yeah, let's close the streaming service, stop live stream, and